In this example, we have 4x over 5 equals 12. Now look at the x on the left side. X is not isolated. It's not all by itself. It's on the left side, but there's also a 4 in the numerator and a 5 in the denominator. We can get rid of the 4 in the numerator and the 5 in the denominator at the same time in one step. And if we can get rid of that 4 and that 5, we will have solved for x. And I do this by multiplying by 5 over 4. And you can see that the 5 up top will cancel the 5 down below, and the 4 up top will cancel the 4 down below. But if I multiply by 5/4 on the left side, I also have to multiply by 5/4 on the right. Now what remains on the left is simply the x all by itself. So after the 5's and the 4's all cancel out over here, I'm just left with x. So I have x equals, and on the right I have 12 times 5 over 4. And this 12, remember, can be thought of as 12 over 1. So the 12 is in the numerator. So when you see this 12 times 5/4, you can think of it as multiplying two fractions together. And the 12 times 5 gives me a 60 in the numerator. And the 1 times 4 gives me a 4 in the denominator. So x is equal to 60 over 4, and that ends up being 15. X over 4 equals 3 over 8. I'll solve this example two different ways. First, look at the left side. X is divided by 4. I can take care of that by multiplying by 4. So I multiply by 4 on both sides. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. The 4's cancel. That leaves me with an x all by itself on the left, which is what I want. I want to know what x equals. And on the right, I have 3/8 times 4, and you can think of that 4 as really being a 4 over 1. So I have 3 times 4, which is 12 in the numerator, and an 8 in the denominator. 12 over 8, both of those numbers can be divided by 4 to reduce the fraction. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I get 3/2, or 1 1/2, and that's my answer. Now here's another approach to the same problem. We can do what we call cross multiplying. I'm going to take this x and this 8 and multiply those together, and some people draw a line there to remind them that they're doing that. And you take the 4 and the 3 and multiply together and draw a line like that. And that big cross there, that big x in the middle, shows you that you're multiplying the x and the 8, so you connect those two, and the 3 and the 4. You don't have to draw those, but drawing that big blue x like I've drawn there is helpful to people to remind them that what we get now is this x and that 8. So I come down here and I write x times 8 equals, and we get this 3 times this 4. X times 8 equals 3 times 4. That's a good way to get rid of the fractions. We haven't solved the equation yet, but the fractions are gone, and when you get rid of the fractions, things tend to get a little bit easier, just because fractions always make things a little bit harder than they otherwise would be. Now I still have an isolated x. Look here at the left side. X is still multiplied by 8. So to isolate x, I need to divide by 8. And if I divide by 8 on the left, I divide by 8 on the right. So on the left side, the 8 in the numerator and denominator cancel, leaving me with x. So I have x equals 3 times 4 over 8, which is the same thing as 12 over 8. And just as before, that fraction reduces to 3/2.